The morning sun cast a gentle glow over the research station, where Dr. Sam Carter stood in the medical lab, poring over data on his tablet. It was another routine day on the remote space station, far away from Earth, orbiting a distant alien world. The crew was small, just a handful of scientists working on various projects, each focused on their individual tasks. Sam had been at the station for 6 months, and while the work was interesting, it was also incredibly isolating. The only company he had were the occasional messages from Earth and the quiet hum of the station's machinery. Today, however, something was different. His quiet routine was about to be interrupted, but he had no idea just how much. He was just finishing up a report when the station's alarm system went off, blaring its emergency signal. His heart skipped a beat. This wasn't the typical malfunction that occasionally triggered the alarms. This was urgent. Sam grabbed his jacket and rushed out of the lab, his mind racing with possibilities. A breach, a system failure. No, it didn't feel like that. The alarms were different this time. Urgent, but not in the usual way. When he reached the main corridor, he saw a crew member, Lieutenant Jenna, rushing toward him. She had a worried expression on her face. "Sam, we need your help now," she said breathlessly. "What's going on?" Sam asked, his brow furrowing. "A ship just landed. Well, more like crashed, on the outer perimeter. There's someone inside it. We need to bring them in. Medical emergency." Jenna didn't wait for Sam to respond before she turned and began running down the hall. Sam followed her quickly, his mind racing. This was not a typical day at the station. They reached the docking bay, where a small, damaged ship sat. The air was thick with the smell of burnt metal and overheated machinery. Sam could already see the signs of an emergency landing. The ship's hull had been dented and scraped as if it had barely made it through the atmosphere. But that wasn't what caught Sam's attention. There, just inside the hatch, was a figure. At first glance, it appeared to be human, but Sam quickly realized that something was off. The figure was tall, with pale blue skin that shimmered under the dim lighting of the docking bay. Its facial features were delicate, almost elf-like, with sharp cheekbones and large, dark eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. It was an alien. The alien woman was unconscious, her body bruised and battered from the crash. She had clearly been through something traumatic. Sam rushed to her side, carefully examining her injuries. Her breathing was shallow but steady. He could feel the faint pulse beneath her skin. But what stood out the most were her eyes, still closed, her face serene despite the violence of the crash. "She's still alive," Sam muttered to himself, relieved but also filled with a sense of awe. "Get her inside now." Jenna nodded, and together, they carefully lifted the alien woman from the wreckage. Sam noticed the strange markings on her arms and legs, symbols he had never seen before, glowing faintly beneath her skin. This wasn't just any alien. It was something different, something he had never encountered in all his years of studying the stars. They moved quickly to the medical bay. Once there, Sam began to work on the alien woman, scanning her for internal injuries, running tests to check her vital signs. Despite her appearance, he could see that her body was similar to humans in many ways, yet different in subtle details that intrigued him. Her anatomy was unfamiliar, but the basic functions, heart, lungs, circulation, were all there. Sam worked quickly, taking samples and adjusting medical equipment to accommodate her alien biology. As he focused on his task, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of connection to her. It wasn't just the urgency of the situation. Something about her, the vulnerability in her unconscious form, made him feel responsible for her safety. But what really caught his attention were the faint traces of emotion he could sense emanating from her. It was subtle, like a flicker of warmth, as if she were alive with thoughts and feelings, even in her unconscious state. "Her name's not in our databases," Jenna said as she helped Sam monitor the alien's vitals. "We couldn't find any trace of her race anywhere in the system. She's definitely not from around here." Sam nodded. This was unlike any species he had ever encountered. His fingers hovered over the medical panel, running diagnostic scans. There was a lot more to her than met the eye, and Sam was determined to find out everything he could. As the hours passed, Sam stabilized her condition. He moved her to a bed in the medical ward and set up a system to monitor her brain activity. The alien woman had no visible injuries beyond her bruises and cuts, but something deeper was affecting her. Sam had a feeling that it wasn't just her body that needed help. It was her mind. The alien's emotional center, which controlled her responses to stimuli, was damaged. That much was obvious from the scans. Sam had read about emotional systems in other species, but he had never worked on something so alien. The idea that emotions could be physically controlled through specific neural pathways fascinated him. It also troubled him. If her emotional center was broken, could she even feel anything? Could she understand the world around her? Or was she trapped in a shell of her own mind, unable to express what she felt? Sam sat back in his chair, staring at the unconscious woman. He had no idea what he had just walked into. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just a rescue mission. This alien woman was something much more. And Sam was going to find out why she had come to them, why she was now lying on this bed, in desperate need of help. The days that followed the crash were a whirlwind of activity for Dr. Sam Carter. After stabilizing the alien woman, Sam focused his attention on understanding her injuries and strange biology. Each day, he spent long hours in the medical bay, poring over data and adjusting equipment to accommodate her unique needs. As a scientist, he had encountered all sorts of alien species in his studies, but none like this. The alien woman remained unconscious, her pale blue skin now glowing faintly under the artificial lighting. Sam had read every medical report from the station, and yet none of them provided any useful information about her species. She had appeared out of nowhere, and her presence here was nothing short of a mystery. He couldn't help but wonder, who was she? Where did she come from? And why had she ended up here, on a remote space station in the middle of nowhere? Sam couldn't stop thinking about her. He spent his free time researching alien biology, hoping to find some clue about her race. But despite all his efforts, he came up empty. Nothing in his studies prepared him for a situation like this. The woman was like no other species he had encountered. She had a humanoid shape, but her anatomy was strange, with markings that seemed to pulse beneath her skin in patterns Sam couldn't decipher. Her small, elf-like ears were another curious feature that set her apart from the other races in the galaxy. One evening, as he sat in front of the medical scanners, trying to find any sign of familiarity in her neural structure, Jenna, the station's lieutenant, entered the lab. "Sam," she said, her voice a mix of concern and curiosity. "How's she doing?" Sam looked up from his work and sighed. "She's stable for now, but her emotional center, it's damaged. She's not processing emotions the way she should be. I think that's part of the reason she's been in this state." Jenna crossed her arms, her brow furrowing. "You mean she can't feel anything? Not even basic emotions like fear, joy, or sadness?" "Exactly," Sam replied, his voice serious. "Her emotional center is in a state of disrepair. Her brain activity shows that she can experience some basic responses. Her heart rate increases when something disturbs her, for example, but it's not the same as the complex range of emotions that we or other alien species experience." Jenna sat down next to him, her eyes scanning the data on the screen. "So if you fix this emotional center, will she be like us?" Sam leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "I don't know. I've never worked on something like this before, but based on what I've seen so far, I think it's possible. If I can repair the damaged neurons and pathways, she could experience emotions the way she's supposed to." Jenna's expression softened. "That sounds dangerous. What if it's too much for her? What if she can't handle it?" Sam nodded. "That's the risk. Emotions are powerful, and for someone who's never truly experienced them before, it could be overwhelming. It could cause her mental strain, or even worse, she could break down. But at the same time, if we don't fix it, she might never be able to feel anything at all. The thought lingered in Sam's mind as he worked late into the night, running simulations on the woman's neural patterns. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to make a decision that would change everything, not only for her but for him too. The next day, as Sam continued his research, he found something intriguing. While scanning her neural structure again, he noticed something unusual. Her brain had a highly developed network of connections in the area that governed empathy and emotional understanding. It was far more complex than what Sam had seen in other alien species. This wasn't just a damaged emotional center. It was a sophisticated system that had been left in a half-functioning state. "That's odd," Sam muttered to himself, studying the data more closely. Her brain was designed to feel deeply, to understand emotions at a profound level. But it's not working right now. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen. It's like someone built her to be emotionally aware, but then intentionally broke it. The thought was unsettling. If someone had intentionally damaged her emotional center, it raised even more questions. Was she a part of some secret experiment? Was she being used for a purpose he couldn't yet understand? Before Sam could dive deeper into his thoughts, Jenna's voice broke through his concentration. "Sam, she's awake." Sam's heart skipped a beat. "What?" "She's awake," Jenna repeated. "I just checked on her in the medical bay. She's conscious." Sam quickly stood up and rushed to the medical bay, his mind racing. He found the alien woman sitting up in her bed, her eyes wide open, but there was no sign of panic or confusion. Instead, she looked curious, as if she were trying to take in everything around her. But there was something distant in her gaze. Her expression was calm, almost detached. Sam hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do. "Can you understand me?" he asked carefully. The alien woman turned her head slowly to look at him. Her eyes, large and dark, seemed to search his face for meaning. She blinked, then nodded ever so slightly. "I'm Sam," he said, approaching her cautiously. "I've been working on your recovery. How do you feel?" Her lips parted as if she were going to speak, but no words came out. Instead, she reached up and touched her chest, her fingers tracing the area where her emotional center would be. Sam watched, unsure of what to say next. He had fixed her physical injuries, but it was clear that her emotional state was still a mystery. She met his gaze again, her eyes full of an emotion Sam couldn't quite identify. It wasn't fear. It wasn't sadness. It was something else. Something deep. "Do you remember what happened?" Sam asked gently. She nodded again, but her expression remained unreadable. The silence between them was thick, full of unspoken questions. Sam wasn't sure what to expect next, but he had a feeling that this was only the beginning. The air in the medical bay felt heavy as Dr. Sam Carter stood over the alien woman, who was now sitting on the bed, her dark eyes watching him with an unreadable expression. She had been awake for hours now, but had not spoken a single word. Sam had been trying to communicate with her, but her responses were minimal, just small gestures or subtle movements. She seemed to be aware of her surroundings, but her emotional center, the part of her brain that would allow her to express and feel complex emotions, was still inactive. Sam had studied her condition in detail over the last few days. It was clear that her emotional system had been severely damaged, and he believed that if he could repair it, she might be able to experience emotions the way her species was meant to. But the challenge was monumental. He was about to perform a procedure on a being whose biology was completely alien to him. He had never worked on anything like this before. The stakes were high. The alien woman's name, if she had one, was still unknown. For now, Sam simply referred to her as Subject A in his notes, but he was starting to feel a connection to her that went beyond just the scientific. He had spent hours alone with her, studying her, understanding her unique biology. Despite the lack of communication, Sam couldn't shake the feeling that she was trying to convey something to him. Something important. "I'm going to fix it," Sam said softly, more to himself than to her. I can repair your emotional center, but I need you to trust me." She didn't respond, but her gaze held steady on him. And for a moment, Sam thought he saw something, just a flicker of understanding in her eyes. He took a deep breath and walked over to the medical equipment, readying the tools he would need for the procedure. His hand shook slightly as he prepared the necessary instruments. The emotional center was a complex network of neurons deep in her brain, and Sam had designed a procedure that would stimulate the damaged areas and help repair the neural pathways. It was risky, but it was the only option. As he worked, Sam couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. This was uncharted territory. The alien woman's brain functioned in ways that were both similar to and vastly different from human brains. He had read all the manuals, studied the scans, and even consulted the few alien texts he had on hand. But even with all that knowledge, there was no telling how her body would respond to the procedure. Would it work? Would she react the way he hoped? Or would the emotional flood be too much for her? The alien woman watched Sam closely as he attached the neural stimulator to her head, a device that would help repair the broken circuits in her brain. Her expression remained neutral, but Sam sensed that she was aware of what was happening. She seemed calm, almost resigned, but that didn't ease his nerves. "I'm ready," Sam said, his voice steady but his heart racing. He looked at the monitor to double-check the settings. Everything was in place. He activated the machine, and a soft hum filled the room. The alien woman's body tensed slightly, but she didn't make a sound. Sam watched as her neural patterns began to shift on the screen in front of him. The stimulator was working, but he could already see some unexpected reactions in her brain activity. The patterns were irregular, unpredictable, and far more intense than he had anticipated. Sam felt a knot form in his stomach. This wasn't just a simple neural repair. She was experiencing emotions, or at least the beginnings of them. The machine was stimulating the emotional center, but it was triggering something deeper within her, something that Sam hadn't accounted for. The alien woman's hand twitched, and for a split second, Sam thought she might speak. But instead, she closed her eyes, as if concentrating hard. Then, the floodgates opened. The first wave of emotions hit her like a storm. Sam watched in shock as her vitals spiked on the monitor. Her heart rate surged, and her breath quickened. The neural stimulator was working. Too well, it seemed. Sam had hoped for a controlled awakening of her emotions, but what he was witnessing was pure chaos. She was being flooded with feelings she had never experienced before, and Sam could tell it was overwhelming her. "Subject A." Sam called out, but she didn't respond. Her eyes shot open, wide and filled with confusion. Her chest heaved as if she couldn't breathe. She was feeling too much, too quickly. Sam rushed to her side, his hands hovering over her, unsure of what to do. He knew he had to act fast. The emotional overload could cause lasting damage, or worse, trigger a breakdown. "Stay with me," he whispered, gently taking her hand. He was no longer thinking just as a scientist. He was acting on instinct, trying to calm her, trying to guide her through this flood of emotions. For a moment, he wasn't sure if it was working. Her eyes darted around the room, panic starting to settle in. But then, as if she had finally found something familiar in his touch, her breathing slowed. The chaos inside her began to subside, just slightly. Sam let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. She looked at him, her expression still distant, but something had changed. There was recognition in her gaze now, a flicker of understanding. Sam realized, with a mix of relief and uncertainty, that the procedure had worked. She was beginning to feel, really feel, her emotions for the first time. Her lips parted, and Sam could see the effort it took for her to speak. "I feel confused," she said softly, her voice trembling. Sam smiled, feeling a rush of triumph and compassion. "It's okay. Take your time." The alien woman blinked, and her brow furrowed as she tried to make sense of the sensations swirling inside her. "So many feelings," she whispered. "So much noise." Sam nodded, gently squeezing her hand. It's okay. You'll get used to it. You're not alone. For the first time since she had arrived, the alien woman looked truly present, as if she were no longer just a passive observer of the world around her, but an active participant in it. Sam felt a deep sense of connection with her, knowing that this was only the beginning of what could be an incredible journey, both for her and for him. The days following the procedure were a blur for Dr. Sam Carter. The alien woman, who now sat in front of him, was not the same as when he had first met her. Her body, although still fragile from the crash, was slowly recovering. But it wasn't just her physical state that had changed. It was her emotions. The procedure Sam had performed had awakened something deep inside her, and now her emotions were alive and active, a vast sea that she had no experience navigating. The first few hours after the procedure were the most difficult. The flood of emotions had overwhelmed her, and Sam had to work quickly to help her stabilize. Her heart had raced uncontrollably, and her breaths had come in short gasps. It had been as if the floodgates of her heart and mind had opened all at once, and she was drowning in a sea of emotions she had never known. Sam sat in the medical bay, reviewing the data on his tablet, but his thoughts were with her. She was resting now, lying on the bed in the corner of the room, but Sam knew that wasn't the end of her journey. The emotional repair was only the beginning. She still had so much to understand about herself, about her emotions, and about what had happened to her in the past. The alien woman's name was still unknown, as she had not yet spoken enough to tell him. She was still learning how to communicate, and though Sam had tried to ask her questions, she remained mostly silent. Her responses were becoming more thoughtful, but her expressions remained mostly blank, as if she were unsure how to respond to the storm of feelings inside her. The first sign of change came when Sam entered the room to check on her the following morning. He found her sitting up in bed, her eyes open, staring at the walls. But there was something different in her gaze. It wasn't the same empty look from before. There was depth now. She seemed more aware of her surroundings. "Good morning," Sam said softly, walking over to her. She didn't immediately respond, but her eyes shifted toward him. There was a flicker of recognition, but it was unclear if she knew what to say. Her hands rested on her lap, her fingers twitching nervously as if they didn't know what to do with themselves. "You're awake," Sam said, keeping his tone calm. "How do you feel?" The alien woman blinked slowly. Her mouth opened as if she were about to speak, but no words came. Instead, she let out a deep sigh, her shoulders slumping slightly. Sam could see the frustration in her eyes. She was trying to process everything inside her, but it was clear she was overwhelmed. "Too much," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Too many feelings." Sam nodded, sitting beside her. "I know. It's going to take time. You've been through a lot, but you'll learn to manage it." The alien woman nodded slowly, her eyes scanning the room. "I don't know what to do," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I feel everything all at once. Happiness, fear, pain, confusion. I don't know what's real anymore." Her words hit Sam harder than he expected. He had always known emotions were complex, but to see someone experiencing them so intensely for the first time was something entirely different. It was both beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. He could see how much effort it took for her just to speak, as if her emotions were pulling her in every direction. "You don't have to figure everything out right away," Sam said gently. "One step at a time. You're not alone in this." The alien woman looked at him, her gaze softening. She seemed to study his face, as if she was trying to understand him, or perhaps trying to make sense of the emotions swirling inside her. After a long pause, she spoke again. "Why did you help me?" she asked, her voice still uncertain. Sam blinked, taken aback by the question. He had been so focused on fixing her emotional center that he hadn't stopped to consider how she might view his actions. "Because you needed help," he said simply. "You were hurt. I wanted to make sure you were okay." She frowned slightly, as if trying to process his response. "But you didn't have to. You could have left me. Why didn't you?" Sam's heart ached as he looked at her. He had never thought of leaving her, but he realized that for her, this must have been an entirely new concept. She was learning what it meant to be cared for, and it was something she had never experienced. "I guess I just felt that it was the right thing to do," Sam replied softly. "You didn't deserve to be alone, and I couldn't just walk away." The alien woman remained silent for a moment, her eyes distant. She was thinking, processing the words, and Sam gave her the space to do so. He knew that rebuilding her emotional state would take time, and each step she took toward understanding herself was important. "I don't understand," she began slowly, as if trying to find the right words. "I don't understand how to feel. But I feel so much now. It's hard to know what's real." Sam nodded, offering a reassuring smile. "That's okay. It's all new to you. Just take it slow. And remember that you don't have to figure everything out all at once. Emotions aren't easy for anyone, no matter where they're from." The alien woman looked down at her hands, her fingers fidgeting nervously. "I didn't know I could feel this much," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know it would be like this." Sam watched her, his heart heavy with empathy. He had never been in her shoes, but he understood that what she was going through was more than just physical recovery. It was emotional rebuilding. Her past, her memories, her understanding of herself had all been lost in the chaos of her injury. Now, with the emotional center restored, she was learning to piece herself together again. And it wasn't going to be easy. "I know it's hard," Sam said softly, "but you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help." The alien woman looked up at him, her eyes meeting his. For the first time since she had arrived, Sam saw something in her expression, something that resembled trust. It was faint, but it was there. She didn't understand everything yet, but she was beginning to trust him. And that, Sam realized, was a step in the right direction. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I don't know how to thank you, but I will try." Sam smiled, relieved. "You don't need to thank me. Just take care of yourself. That's all I want." As he stood up and moved toward the door, he felt a strange mix of pride and uncertainty. He had helped her take the first step toward emotional recovery, but there was still so much left for her to learn. Sam knew the journey ahead would be difficult, for both of them, but he was determined to help her through it. And somehow, in helping her, he realized that he was learning something about himself too. It had been a few days since the emotional procedure had taken place, and Dr. Sam Carter could see the changes in the alien woman. Though she was still struggling to understand the overwhelming flood of emotions she was now experiencing, there was a noticeable shift in her behavior. She wasn't as distant anymore. Her eyes, once vacant and unsure, now held a spark of curiosity and interest. There was something new in her, something he had never seen before. It was as if she were learning to embrace her emotions, but at the same time, she still needed guidance. And Sam was willing to offer it. As the days passed, the alien woman, whom Sam had begun to call Lyra after trying several words from her language, began to speak more. Her sentences were slow at first, but they carried weight. She wasn't just speaking for the sake of communication anymore. She was trying to understand herself, trying to make sense of everything that was now inside her. Sam was sitting at his desk in the medical bay one afternoon, reviewing data from Lyra's latest tests. She had been improving, but he knew there was still a long road ahead for her. As he looked through the scans, he heard the soft sound of footsteps approaching. He turned around to see Lyra standing in the doorway, her head slightly tilted, her expression soft but unsure. "Lyra," Sam called out gently, standing up from his chair. "How are you feeling today?" She hesitated for a moment, her hands clasped in front of her, as if she were uncertain of what to do with them. "I don't know," she said, her voice still quiet. "I feel different. More alive, but also scared. I've never felt anything like this before." Sam nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The emotional journey she was on was far from easy. Emotions were messy, complicated, and sometimes painful, and now that Lyra was experiencing them for the first time, she had no guide. Sam had to remember that everything was new to her, her emotions, her body, even the idea of trust. He stepped closer, offering her a reassuring smile. "That's okay. You're not alone in this, Lyra. You're learning, and that's a good thing. Just take your time, and we'll work through it together." Lyra looked down at the floor for a moment, her mind clearly working through the storm of emotions inside her. "I feel grateful," she said softly, her voice still trembling. "I didn't know I could feel that. It's strange. It's like something is swelling up inside me." Sam tilted his head, intrigued by her words. "Grateful for what?" Lyra met his gaze then, and for the first time, there was something clear in her eyes, a recognition of the bond that had started to form between them. "For you," she said simply. "For fixing me. For helping me feel." The words took Sam by surprise. He had never expected to hear such simple, sincere gratitude from her. It was humbling. Here was this alien, someone so different from him in every way, yet she was expressing gratitude in a way that was familiar to him. Human. Sam took a step back, unsure of how to respond at first. "You don't need to thank me," he said, his voice soft. "I just did what I thought was right. You were hurt, and I wanted to help." Lyra's eyes glistened slightly, and she shook her head. "No, you don't understand. I don't just mean for fixing my body. I mean for fixing my mind, for giving me the chance to feel, really feel. You don't know what that's like when you've never known it before." Sam could see the vulnerability in her words, the weight of what she was saying. It was as if she had been given a gift she never expected to receive, and now she didn't know how to handle it. But in her voice, he heard something else, a longing, a desire to understand and connect. She was grappling with the feelings inside her, unsure of where to put them or how to express them. "You've given me something I didn't know I could have," Lyra continued, her voice soft but filled with emotion. "I never understood why people care for each other, why they feel joy, sadness, love, fear, but now I do. And I don't know how to process it all." Sam could feel the weight of her words. He knew this was not just a simple expression of thanks. This was something more, a breakthrough in her emotional journey. She was acknowledging her own humanity, her own capacity to feel and connect, and it was both a burden and a gift to her. "It's okay," Sam said gently, moving a little closer to her. "You don't have to have all the answers right away. Feeling is something we all learn over time. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And you're doing great." Lyra's eyes searched his face, her expression still a little confused, but now tinged with something else, a mix of trust and vulnerability. "You make me feel safe. That's new. I've never felt safe before, and I don't know how to return it." Sam smiled softly. "You don't need to return anything, Lyra. Just be yourself. That's enough." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of the conversation settling between them. Sam knew there was so much more to this than just the scientific aspects. He was helping Lyra rediscover her emotions, but in doing so, he was learning something important too, the true depth of human connection. Lyra finally spoke again, her voice quiet but full of sincerity. "I will never forget this. You gave me my emotions back, Sam. You gave me a chance to experience life in a way I never thought possible. I don't know if I can ever repay you for that, but I will try. I will try to understand this world and these feelings. I will try to be better because of what you've done for me." Sam felt a warmth spread in his chest as he looked at her. She had come so far in such a short time. Her emotions, once dormant, were now alive and vibrant, and she was starting to understand them. There was still a long way to go, but Sam knew that this was only the beginning of a deeper connection between them. "You don't need to repay me, Lyra," Sam said, his voice filled with quiet conviction. "Just take it one day at a time. and know that I'll be here, helping you through it." Lyra smiled, a small but genuine smile. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, a real, human emotion. And for Sam, that was all he needed. Days turned into weeks as Dr. Sam Carter continued his work with Lyra. The alien woman's emotional recovery was a gradual process, one that required patience, understanding, and a lot of trial and error. She was slowly learning to process and understand the whirlwind of emotions that had been unlocked in her. Every day, Sam saw a new side to her, a side that was still uncertain, but also filled with wonder, curiosity, and even the beginnings of joy. Lyra was beginning to ask more questions, not just about her emotions, but about the world around her. Sam noticed that the more she learned about human emotions and culture, the more she seemed to connect with her own feelings. She was discovering a new part of herself with every interaction, every conversation they shared. One afternoon, as Sam was reviewing some data in the medical bay, Lyra approached him. She had been spending more time out of the medical ward, exploring the station, but today she seemed different, more confident, perhaps. Her steps were more assured, and her eyes, which once held a distant uncertainty, now held a spark of curiosity. "Sam." Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts. He looked up, surprised to see her standing there, her expression serious but thoughtful. "Yes, Lyra, what's on your mind?" She hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath, as if gathering her thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About emotions, about what it means to feel, to connect with others. And I've realized something." Sam raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What's that?" Lyra took another step closer, her eyes meeting his. "I think I understand now. I understand why people care for each other, why they help each other. It's not just about fixing someone or making them feel better. It's about sharing a part of yourself with someone else. It's about building something together." Sam blinked, taken aback by her insight. He had expected her to be focused on understanding her emotions, but this was something deeper, a realization about human connection itself. "That's exactly it," Sam said, smiling softly. "It's about being there for each other, even when things are difficult. It's about the bond that forms when two people trust each other." Lyra nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "I've never had that before. I've never had someone show me that kind of trust or care for me the way you have. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like a piece of me that was missing is finally starting to fit. And it's because of you." Sam's heart softened at her words. He had always known that he was helping her recover, but hearing her speak about it so openly and with such sincerity made him realize just how much his actions had meant to her. It wasn't just about repairing her emotional center. It was about giving her a chance at something she had never known: connection, trust, and the ability to form bonds. "You don't need to thank me, Lyra," Sam said, his voice warm. "It's not just about me helping you. It's about you helping yourself. You're the one who's learning to feel and understand yourself. I'm just here to support you through it." Lyra looked down at her hands, then back at him, her eyes wide and filled with emotion. "I don't know how to be grateful enough for that," she said quietly. "You've done so much for me, more than I ever expected. But I think I'm starting to understand that it's not about gratitude alone. It's about something deeper, something that goes beyond words." Sam looked at her, his chest tightening slightly. He had grown so used to the clinical side of things, to focusing on the science and the procedures, that he hadn't realized how much this connection with Lyra had changed him. He wasn't just helping her recover physically and emotionally. He was learning from her as well. He was seeing the world through her eyes, and in doing so, he was discovering a new way to view his own life and relationships. "Lyra," Sam began, his voice thoughtful, "I've been thinking, too, about how much we've learned from each other. You're not just a patient or an alien I'm studying. You're someone I'm growing with, and I think that's what makes this so special." Lyra's expression softened, her eyes glistening slightly as she processed his words. "I never thought I would feel this way," she whispered. I thought I was meant to be alone, to be disconnected from everything. But now, I realize that being connected to others, it's what makes life meaningful. It's what makes us who we are. The silence that followed was comfortable, filled with understanding. Sam had always believed in the importance of connection, but seeing Lyra go through her own emotional awakening had given him a deeper appreciation for it. She had been isolated from her emotions, from others, for so long. And now she was starting to build something new, something beautiful. I think we've both learned a lot from each other, Sam said, breaking the silence with a smile. And I'm glad I'm here to help you through it. But I'm also glad you're here with me. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm starting to see that maybe we don't have to know everything. Maybe it's about the journey, about the connections we make along the way. Lyra smiled, a small but genuine smile, and for the first time since he had met her, Sam saw her not as an alien in need of repair, but as someone who was beginning to understand herself, someone who was learning to trust, to feel, and to be a part of something bigger than herself. I think you're right, Lyra said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. The journey is what matters, and I'm glad I'm on it with you, Sam. The connection between them, once fragile and uncertain, had grown stronger with each passing day. Sam could see it in her eyes, in the way she carried herself now. She was no longer the distant, confused woman he had met weeks ago. She was a person, complex, emotional, and fully capable of experiencing life in all its depth. And though there were still many steps to take on her journey, Sam knew that they would take them together. As the days passed, Sam and Lyra continued to build on the trust and connection they had started. They talked more, shared more, and learned more from each other. It wasn't always easy, and there were moments when Lyra still struggled with her emotions, but Sam was there for her, just as he had promised. And in helping her, he realized that perhaps, in the end, it wasn't just her emotional recovery that had mattered. It was their shared journey, the connection they had built, that had truly transformed them both. The days passed, and the bond between Dr. Sam Carter and Lyra deepened in ways neither of them had expected. The emotional repair had been a success, but what had followed was far more than they had planned. Lyra was no longer just an alien in need of help. She was becoming someone Sam could connect with, someone he could share his thoughts, fears, and hopes with. She had become more than just a patient. She was a friend, a companion. It was early one morning when Sam first noticed the change. He was working at his desk, preparing for another round of testing, when he heard a soft knock at the door. He looked up, expecting one of the station crew members, but instead, Lyra stood in the doorway. Her expression was calm, but there was something different about her today. She looked more confident, more at ease with herself than ever before. "Sam," Lyra said softly, stepping into the room. "I need to talk to you." Sam set his work aside and turned his full attention to her. "Of course, Lyra. What's on your mind?" She hesitated for a moment, her gaze shifting to the floor before meeting his eyes again. "I've been thinking about what you said, the part about the journey. I've learned so much about emotions and connection, but I feel like I need to understand one more thing. And I think you're the person who can help me." Sam stood up, concerned. "What is it, Lyra?" "Anything you need, I'm here." Lyra took a deep breath, clearly gathering her thoughts. "I've learned how to feel, how to trust others, and how to connect. But what I don't understand is how to deal with loss. How do you handle the things you can't control, the things you can't fix?" The question caught Sam off guard. It wasn't what he had expected. Loss was a difficult subject, something that everyone had to deal with in their own way. But he hadn't anticipated that Lyra, having just begun to experience emotions, would already be contemplating such a heavy topic. He walked over to her, sitting down beside her. "Lyra, loss is something everyone faces at some point in their lives. It's part of being human, or being alive, really. We can't control everything. And sometimes, things don't work out the way we want them to. But it's how we deal with it that matters." Lyra's eyes glistened slightly, and she looked down at her hands. "I feel like I'm finally learning to live, to understand the world around me. But now I'm afraid that once I truly start to care about someone, I'll lose them. I'll lose you." Sam's heart tightened at her words. He hadn't realized how much fear still lingered inside her. She had been so focused on understanding her emotions and creating new connections that she hadn't fully confronted the fear of losing them. He could see now that her emotional journey wasn't just about understanding joy and trust. It was about learning to cope with the harder parts of life, too. "Lyra," Sam said gently, reaching out to place a hand on hers. "It's okay to be afraid. Fear is natural. But loss is a part of life, and it doesn't mean you failed. It just means you've loved, you've connected, and that's worth something. If you never let yourself care, you'll never get to experience the full range of what life has to offer." Lyra looked at him, the weight of his words settling in. She was still processing the enormity of what it meant to connect with someone, to feel those deep emotions, and then to face the possibility of losing it. But Sam's presence seemed to offer her some comfort, as though she were not alone in this journey. "I think I understand," she said slowly, her voice soft but steady. "It's not about avoiding loss. It's about what we do with the time we have, the people we meet, the moments we share. Even if I do lose you, I'll have the memories. And that's enough." Sam smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. Lyra had come so far in such a short time. She had learned to embrace the good with the bad, to accept both the beauty and the pain that came with being alive. It was a lesson that many people took years to learn, and here she was, already understanding it. "It is enough," Sam agreed. "And remember, we'll always have today. And we can make the most of it. That's all anyone can do." Lyra gave him a small smile, one that was filled with both gratitude and understanding. "Thank you, Sam. I don't know where I would be without you." For a moment, they sat in silence, the weight of their conversation hanging in the air. But it wasn't a heavy silence. It was the kind of silence that comes from understanding, from knowing that no matter what the future held, they had made a meaningful connection. Sam had helped Lyra heal, not just physically but emotionally. And in doing so, he had also helped himself, learning more about empathy, trust, and the importance of human connection than he ever thought possible. As the days went on, Sam continued to support Lyra as she navigated her emotions. There were still moments of doubt, moments where she questioned her place in the world or the people around her. But there were also moments of joy, of wonder, as she learned to appreciate the small things in life, the beauty of a sunrise, the feeling of laughter, the warmth of a kind word. And through it all, Sam remained by her side, guiding her, supporting her, and, in return, learning from her. They were both growing, both evolving. Lyra had come to understand the complexities of emotions, and Sam had come to understand the power of connection. Together, they had built something strong, a bond that transcended words, a bond that would carry them both forward, no matter what the future held. In the end, Sam realized that this was what truly mattered. Not the fixes, not the repairs, but the moments of connection, the understanding that they were both part of something bigger than themselves. That in the face of fear, in the face of uncertainty, they had found something real, something lasting. And that was enough.